determination where the House will be hearing and determining this case facing Mwangaza. A total number of 6 advocates have been lined up for defense. This is the defense of Governor Rwaria Mwangaza. The lawyers, and among them are lawyers Ongoya and lawyer Elias Mutuma. The other lawyers that will be representing the governor in this case are lawyers Brida Kimathi. These are the top 3 lawyers that will be leading the defense this morning to try and, so to speak, pour cold water on the allegations by the members of the county assembly who have accused the governor of going in contravention with the constitution, as well as so to speak, straying or not adhering to the ethics and the provisions that guides state officers in regards to how they will be discharging their mandates. The gross violation of the constitution and other laws, gross misconduct, and abuse of office are the 3 main charges that senators will be looking to establish whether the grounds for impeachment have been substantiated. According to the ruling by the Speaker yesterday, when the Speaker was guiding the House in regards to how this matter will be proceeding, this vote will be by delegation. By the end of this day, we'll be expecting our senators to vote on this motion on impeachment. Governor Mwangaza will be needing a total number of 24 senators to save her from the impending impeachment charge leveled against her. And if that number will not be attained, the other way is that the 24 senators will have to vote for a yes or no in this particular impeachment of Meru Governor Rwaria Mwangaza. If Mwangaza is saved from this impeachment, this will not be the first time that Governor Mwangaza has been saved by the Senate. She was just at the Senate plenary yet again last year by 1, and this House threw out the impeachment charges, and this being the 3rd impeachment hearing that kicked off yesterday. We will be waiting to see how this will be panning out, or how the House will be voting. The MCA wing has lined up Zipporah Kinya, who is an MCA at the Meru County Assembly, as their key witness, or popularly known as evidence in chief at the Senate, to prosecute the matter before the Senate. The widow of the fallen blogger, popularly known as Sniper, was yet another witness that appeared before the Senate last night to try and put the weight into this case, among other witnesses. They were also cross-examined by the senators for the better part of last night to get to understand where they are coming from with this particular case. The main witness being Zipporah Kinya, the evidence-in-chief. We witnessed her submitting details of the alleged violations by the governor, urging the Senate to uphold the impeachment. And our dear viewers, all eyes being at the Senate this 20th day of August, the year being 2024, the last day of the hearing and impeachment of Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. This is the third time that Mwangaza is coming before the Senate, and when the vote will be taken, in the event the Senate upholds the impeachment, the governor...
Honorable Senators, we do have quorum now, so we'll proceed with the business of the morning. Clerk, proceed to call the first order, please.
Order number 1, communication from the chair. Order number 2, motion, joint report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs of the National Assembly and the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations of the Senate on the approval for appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho as Inspector General of the National Police Service.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I will be brief in moving this motion. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security and Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations on the approval on the report on the approval hearing of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho, nominee for appointment to the position of Inspector General of the National Police Service, pursuant to Standing Order 2236 of the Senate Standing Orders. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you are aware, pursuant to provision of Article 245(2)(a) of the Constitution, Section 12, Subsection 2 of the National Police Service Act, Cap 84, and Section 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approvals Act, Cap 7F, His Excellency the President submitted the name of Douglas Kanja Kirocho, CBS, OGW, as the nominee for appointment for the position of Inspector General of the National Police Service. Mr. Speaker, what follows thereafter is procedural issues. I will be able to mention, Mr. Speaker, that the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of Senate via communication made on 1st of August 2024 conveyed the message from the President nominating Douglas Kanja Kirocho as the nominee for appointment to the position of Inspector General of the National Police Service. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of Senate referred the matter to the two committees to hold a joint approval hearing. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Section 6, subsection 9 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approvals Act, the Clerk of the National Assembly and the Clerk of the Senate invited interested members of the public to submit any representations by written statements on oath, that is affidavits, with supporting defense evidence on the suitability of the nominee for appointment to the position of Inspector General. The invitations, Mr. Speaker, were made via advertisements which appeared in the National Daily Nation and the Standard newspapers on Saturday, 3rd of August 2024. Mr. Speaker, the notification was followed up by a letter to the nominee inviting him to attend the approval hearing and requesting him to submit the completed questionnaire set out in schedule to the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approvals Act, that is CAP 7F, together with the clearance certificates from the Office of the ODPP, ESEC, KRA, DCI, HELP, and CRB as required under the law. Mr. Speaker, further, the clerks also of the two houses wrote to ODPP, the same institutions, seeking reference and background checks relating to the suitability of the nominee. Mr. Speaker, these are all legal requirements that are mandatory. It is legal. It is should be received as we vet the nominee. And Mr. Speaker, again, further clerks also of the two houses went forward now to receive these responses. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Article 118 of the Constitution, Section 6.3 of the Public Appointments, Standing Order 45.3 of the National Assembly, and Standing Order 77.2 of the Senate, Standing Orders, the clerks of the two houses, by way of advertisement, also Mr. Speaker, in the print media, notified the general public of the intention of the committee to conduct public approvals. Mr. Speaker, it is important for the public to know, and even for this House, that public participation is no longer an optional, it is mandatory also. And that is why the Constitution of the Republic and Article 118 comes to play here, so that we also get to know from the public what they think of a nominee, whether CS, whether PS, and even for the case of the IG. Mr. Speaker, the committee conducted approval hearings on 15th of August, that is Thursday. In conducting the approvals hearing, the committee were guided by the provisions of the Constitution, the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approvals Act, the National Public Service, the National Police Public Service, the National Assembly Standing Orders, and the Senate Standing Orders. So, Mr. Speaker, those are the legal provisions that guided the committee, the joint committee, during the approval hearings. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the report of this joint committee, it is well detailed. Every aspect of what transpired during the approval hearings, Mr. Speaker, are captured very well in this particular report, which is detailed. That is, Mr. Speaker, Chapter 3 of the report, from paragraph 36 all the way. If you want to know what transpired, the responses by the by the nominee is mindset on the issues that are pertinent in his leadership, if approved, are captured in Chapter 3 of the report. So in the interest of time, I would like just to request my colleagues, as you go through this, refer to Chapter 3, and you will see all what transpired. And I think I will stop at that. So I will, Mr. Speaker, go to committee's observations based on the approval hearings. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that a total of 30 memorandums were received with regard to the suitability of the nominee. Mr. Speaker, memorandums from the public must fulfill certain requirements. It should be supported by an affidavit and the evidence, and that is something that is mandatory also. So out of the 30, two only fulfill the requirements of the law. It had an affidavit in support and the evidence, Mr. Speaker. The issues raised in the two memorandums, Mr. Speaker, contesting the suitability of the nominee was sufficiently and satisfactorily addressed by the nominee and do not provide sufficient evidence to warrant the disqualification of the nominee for appointment to the position of IG. Again, Mr. Speaker, the full details of those issues raised by the two Kenyans are also contained. The complaints and the response by the nominee, and also the analysis by the committee as to whether those two complaints really can stop the the vetting of the nominee. Mr. Speaker, the other observation the committee also made is that the nominee fulfilled the provisions of Article 78, Sub-Article 1 and 2 of the Constitution for appointment, since he is a Kenyan citizen and does not hold a dual citizenship. That's a very, very critical point, Mr. Speaker. A person serving as an IG must not hold two citizenship, it should be only one in the country. And Mr. Speaker, that was also fulfilled. Another observation, Mr. Speaker, is that the nominee holds a degree and as required by the provisions of Section 11(1) and of the National Police Service Act for appointment as Inspector General. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that the National Police Service Act has most of the provisions as to the requirements, the qualifications of the nominee, and we were satisfied as a committee that, Mr. Speaker, under observation number 10D, he had that particular provision of that degree. The nominee meets the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity, having obtained the clearance from the institutions I spoke about, that is EACC, you talk about KRA, and all the other institutions, Mr. Speaker. The committee was satisfied that indeed the nominee fulfills requirements of Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. Mr. Speaker, the nominee demonstrated knowledge of topical, administrative, technical issues relating to governance and the requisite abilities, qualifications, experience to serve. Mr. Speaker, I participated in vetting the immediate former IG. And as we all do this, Mr. Speaker, this nominee promises heaven for the Kenyan people. Available, they will be available. They will be hands-on. They will be able to visit the ground. They will be able to respond. And Mr. Speaker, we took time as a house, as a committee, to inquire from the nominee if indeed he will be one of those people who will just come and make some public pronouncements, which later, immediately appointed, they forget about. Mr. Speaker, this is the nominee rose from the ranks of a corporal, and he has served this country as a police officer, Mr. Speaker, for 39 years, rising through the ranks. Mr. Speaker, he has served in almost every part of the country, in various positions. Mr. Speaker, he assured the committee and the public that Mr. Speaker is going to ensure that he will fulfill the promises he gave to the committee. Mr. Speaker, there are about 2 issues I will just mention so that I stop. Mr. Speaker, the issue of North Rift, 7 counties, hosting 9 million Kenyans, suffering from cattle rustling. Mr. Speaker, I have moved a motion in this House, approved. It's now being implemented by the department concerned. And Mr. Speaker, the nominee was able to promise deployment, if approved by this House, deployment of enough NPR, the deployment of more security forces. He was able to address the issue of the extrajudicial killings, which Kenyans still feel it exists, but he affirmed to the committee, Mr. Speaker, that is something which is going to work on it. Mr. Speaker, issues concerning the robberies going on in our cities and so on. Matters, Mr. Speaker, regarding the welfare of the members, housing, insurance, and so on. So, Mr. Speaker, if because of time, I will refer members to the report because it has all those issues. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that based on the observations made, the committee recommends that the House approves that Mr. Douglas Kancha Kirocho, CBS, OGW, for appointment as the Inspector General of Police Service. Mr. Speaker, I want to end there and request my brother Mungatana to also briefly second this motion so that members will have a moment to debate before we go to the other matter before the House. So I want to request Mungatana to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move. I beg to move.
Senator Mungatana.
To thank the Honorable William Cheptumo, our Chairman for Internal Security Committee and Foreign Affairs, and Gabriel Tongoyo, his counterpart in the National Assembly, for the good work they have done in preparing this report. Mr. Speaker, in seconding the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja, I wanted to particularly take this floor to commend Mr. Kanja. I know a lot is going to be said in this House, Mr. Speaker, about his very good qualifications, his many years in service, and his excellent performance up to now. But what I want to really emphasize, Mr. Speaker, is what Mr. Kanja has been doing of late, which I want him to start, not to stop from where he started. Mr. Speaker, we are not saying anything bad about the previous Inspector General of Police. But even in his acting capacity, Douglas Kanja has been communicating to the Kenyan people, especially when we were having challenges in the city and other places with high populations around the country. Mr. Speaker, he would come out and tell us, this is the plan the police have. This is what we expect those who want, for example, to express their opinions, where they need to go, what they need to do. This is the way we are going to handle this matter. Mr. Speaker, this is the expectation of the public. And this is the expectation we want the new Inspector General to carry out. We want proper communication. Mr. Speaker, I have sat in this House and spoken about the responsibility of public officers and their responsibility to speak to Kenyans. When we were approving here Dr. Patrick Amoth, I stood here in this House, Mr. Speaker, and I said, we are having issues that need proper communication. We do not want to be told by bloggers what is happening on MPOX. We want the officials of government to speak with authority on these matters. And Mr. Speaker, I was so gratified yesterday when I saw this new Director of Public Health speaking with authority on the question of MPOX. That is not a matter of the PS. That is not a matter of the minister. That is a matter of an official who is technical in the ministry to speak to us with authority so that we are not exposed to the knowledge, half knowledge and quarter knowledge of bloggers, Mr. Speaker, and then they circulate it as the truth. We want the new Inspector General of Police to be addressing that. Mr. Speaker, the minister has his place. The CS has his place. But Mr. Speaker, we want, when it comes to security matters, the Inspector General of Police must be seen, must be heard, must be felt within the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, when we see the minister going to Baringo and what, he is a policy man. What we want is the person in charge. What is it that you have done? How many people have you deployed? How much money are you using for the operations? We want people who are holding public offices to speak with the authority of that office so that Kenyans can get the value for money. When there is a gap, Mr. Speaker, we have problems. We have rumors. We have false information. For example, Mr. Speaker, when we had the recent demonstrations that happened, it was the responsibility of the Inspector General of Police to come and say that this is what transpired. The estimated value of property lost is this. We lost some people as police officers, and this is the number that we lost. And the public also, condolences, we lost. And this is the number. You speak with authority and impartially. But Mr. Speaker, we've even had arguments about the number of people that we lost, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker. And we have not been able to be told. When we say our people are involved, we want the police authorities. And we want Mr. Kanja to take this official position without fearing the political. Because with us, we will never be satisfied with what we do. There'll be those who will be telling you what you're doing is rubbish, and there'll be those who will be telling you what you're doing is good. But what you need to come out to do is to tell us impartial position. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak about the question of his responsibilities. If you look at the Police Act, Mr. Speaker, Cap 84, one of the things he is supposed to do is to establish broader relationship with the society. Mr. Speaker, I was going to request Mr. Kanja, because we are approving him as the new Inspector General, that he must come out and set a certain legacy around him, that in his time, the Kenyan police service actually became the police service. It did not change to become a police force. We should be able to have that confidence as Kenyans. Not to run away from police officers when we see them, but to be able to approach them and speak to them. Mr. Speaker, when I'm saying this, I'm saying this because for us who come from the outer parts of this nation, the counties which are out there, you will find the relationship in some parts, and I'm not saying in all parts, in some parts, when children see the police, they run away because of the fear that police have installed and bestowed upon the people. May you come out as the Inspector General of Police who set up a new standard that the police officers, we approach them with confidence like they do in other parts of the world, that we are able to talk to them and speak to them. I don't need to be a member of parliament, a member of county assembly, a member of the executive, or any person in government for you to listen to me. Any person, Mr. Speaker, should be able to be heard. We want to see the images of police officers helping the disabled people cross the roads. We want to see police officers being on the first line. When we call you, you don't tell us you don't have fuel. Mr. Speaker, one of the first things the president did when he got sworn into office, he said that he's going to give the Inspector General of Police full authority to spend the money. So now you have no reason for you to tell us you do not have fuel when emergencies occur. And in particular for counties which are outside towns, because this is where we need a lot of emergency response. Mr. Speaker, as I second this motion, I would like to request that he should not be an Inspector General who stays in Nairobi. We want him to come to these areas where there have been security issues. We want to see him there, and we want to see you talking when you are there, telling people what the government is doing. And because you are an AIE holder, you should tell us how much money you are allocating, say, to Tana River for operations. How many police stations are you opening in our counties? Especially the ones that have, and I'm not speaking only about my county, Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking across the nation. Tell us how much money you are allocating. What is your strategic plan for operations in these counties? We should not be hearing only of the police when we have seen people die, or when there are accidents, when there are attacks. Come out and tell us this is the plan, this is how we are executing. You should be part and parcel of our lives, because security is our life also. Security is part and parcel of our life. You should be coming to the televisions, to the radios, to the whatever, speaking to us of your plans, so that we don't wait for things to happen. That's when we see you. We want you to tell us in advance that I will be coming to Tana River County, and this is the plan. We have this number of police stations. This is what we are doing, so that we walk with you. Mr. Speaker, I really want to commend to this Senate and even effectively the Republic of Kenya, this new officer who has served for so many years, 39 years, with distinction. So we ask that we support him, and I beg to second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mundegi, have a seat. Honorable Senators will now proceed to propose the question. The Senate adopt the joint report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs of the National Assembly and the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations of the Senate on the approval hearing of the nominee to the position of Inspector General of the National Police Service laid on the table of the Senate on Monday the 19th of August 2024. And pursuant to Article 245, 2A of the Constitution, Section 12 of the National Police Service Act, Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, and Standing Order 77 of the Senate approved the nomination of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho for appointment to the position of Inspector General of the National Police Service. Now the floor is open. Yes, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance to Standing Order number 111, rise to, and this is after consultation with the leader of minority. Mr. Speaker, you understand the kind of schedule we have today. We have an impeachment hearing. Yesterday we left here at midnight, and with the Assembly only having presented their side. Today we have the defense, and they have quite some work. So we consulted with the leader of minority. I rise with, in accordance to Standing Order number 111 on limitation of debate. We consulted with the leader of a minority and have agreed that let us have 4 representatives from each side speaking for 5 minutes, and we close debate in the interest of the very agenda that is ahead of us. Therefore, that's a request I'd wish to make. I request the leader of minority to second.
Minority Leader, can you confirm that that is a position?
Yes, I do.
Very well. So we will take 5 from each side, each speaking for 5 minutes. Senator Wambua Kiyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to support the report of the committee on the recommendation for the appointment of Douglas Kanja Kirocho, CBS OGW, as the Inspector General of Police for the next 4 years. Mr. Speaker, as we wish Douglas Kanja well in the service, the Speaker, we want to remind him of a few things. That the Speaker, following the enactment of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the police force then was changed into a service. And the service, under that service, Mr. Speaker, is when we created the office of the Inspector General of Police. Mr. Speaker, from Article 243 of the Constitution up to Article 245 of the Constitution, detailing the establishment of the office, the functions of the office, and the service command. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that Mr. Kanja is taking office at a very critical moment in the history of our country. He is occupying office at a time, Mr. Speaker, that this country has endured the greatest levels of police brutality. Mr. Speaker, Kanja is coming into office when the police service, in the eyes of almost every Kenyan, is known for 2 things. 1, brutality, and 2, corruption. And yet, Mr. Speaker, Article 244 of the Constitution, under the functions of the service, I took time to go through that article, Mr. Speaker, and I cannot locate the Kenya Police Service under the provisions of Article 244 of the Constitution. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because that article says that the service is supposed to uphold the highest standards of professionalism. Mr. Speaker, that is wanting in the service. It says that the service is supposed to prevent corruption and act transparently and pursue accountability. I cannot locate that in the service. It says that the service is supposed to protect human rights and fundamental freedoms. The Speaker, that is lacking in the service. It says that the service should promote relationship with the broader society. That also is lacking in the service. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to Senator Mugatana seconding the motion, and he spoke from my mouth that, Mr. Speaker, a time has come that perhaps the head of the police service must work extra hours, extra time, with greater dedication to change the face of the police service, so that a person in dire need, a person who needs help, and they see a police officer on the streets, they run to the officer, because the officer will provide help at the time of need. As we speak today, Mr. Speaker, if you are lost in the streets of Nairobi and you see a police officer, it will be very difficult to approach them for help, because probably what may happen is that they may mislead you or even arrest you, Mr. Speaker, and they might even charge you, threaten to charge you with loitering with bad intent. Mr. Speaker, this service must be reclaimed. The glory of this service must be reclaimed. Mr. Speaker, the Ijiri
just half a minute, conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the IG is coming into office at a time that there is need for him to exercise full independence as provided for in Article 245 of the Constitution. These abductions, these police officers hooded, hiding behind hoods, Mr. Speaker, he must deal with those people. And lastly, as I conclude, he is coming to office on a day that Maina Wajigi has been arrested for reasons that we don't even understand. Mr. Speaker, that belongs to the past. That must stop. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also take this opportunity to rise to support this motion. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank the committees, both committees of the two houses and the chairs, my friend Chair Cheptumo and Chair Tongoyo. Honorable Speaker, our nominee, IG Douglas Kanja Kirochi, has done a very good job for this country for the last 39 years. He started with a police constable, as a police constable, and he rose through ranks of from a corporal to Assistant Inspector General of Police, Senior Assistant Inspector General of Police, and now nominee for Inspector General of Police. Honorable Speaker, I want to also take this opportunity to congratulate the nominee. Honorable Speaker, when he was being vetted, his assets were, as he has indicated, is 46 million shillings. Honorable Speaker, if you look at his earnings per month, for the 39 years he has worked for this country, he was getting 98,290 every month. Honorable Speaker, if you've had other CSS being vetted, some of the CSS, the 2 years they've worked in this government, were earning, or if you look at the asset, were 8,333,000 every month. Honorable Speaker, looking at 39 years of service as a police officer, starting with the rank of a police constable, and he got an asset of 46 million. That is really commendable. Honorable Speaker, having said that, some people are talking about police officers being cruel. I think the problem we have in this country is the police officers are being underpaid. Honorable Speaker, what I would want to ask Mr. Kanja to do immediately is confirmed. First of all, he must look at the police housing. Honorable Speaker, if you go to Industrial Area Police Station today, Honorable Speaker, the way these police officers live is, I'll tell you today, they are not living like human beings. How do you expect a police officer to work the whole day and going back to those kind of houses? That is terrible. I wanted, if possible, Honorable Speaker, I went to Ileret, my county, one time, and I visited police post and police station. And the way they live, those houses were built in 1950s. And I would want Kanja to visit Ileret and to let him see how people live in Ileret and many police stations. Honorable Speaker, the other issue I want to raise with Kanja, if he is approved, is the issue of Koreans, missionaries, 2 Korean missionaries who were abducted last week. He must visit Moyale. They were abducted in Oda, Moyale. I want him to visit there and see how we can solve that problem. The other issue I wanted to raise, Honorable Speaker, is the issue on the Ethiopia-Kenya border. We have incursions from Ethiopian military regularly into Ethiopia, into Kenya, mainly around Anona, Elebor, and around Sololo areas. Honorable Speaker, our people have suffered. There are IDPs in Sololo as we speak because of the issues we have from the Ethiopian military. The other issue is the issue of NPR. I want Kanja to visit Marsabit, to visit Samburu, visit Garissa, Mandera, Turkana, and Pokot to address the issue of NPRs. We have a lot of shortages on that side. Finally, Honorable Speaker, there are barriers on this road from Moyale to Isiolo. We have got 18 police barriers. I want Honorable Kanja to address the issue of all these barriers. What are these barriers for? Why do we keep police barriers? They can do patrols. Why do you keep barriers on the roads? And these are all toll stations.
Senator Crystal Asige.
Thank you, Speaker, for allowing me to also contribute to this motion with regards to the new appointment of our Inspector General of the National Police Service. Speaker, my contribution will be very brief and to the point. I am standing here still extremely hurt and disappointed as to how Kenya has been portrayed and the suffering and the killings and pain that we have seen over the past 2 months, especially, Speaker. We sat here 2 years ago and vetted and appointed the former IG, who, unfortunately, he has become one of the most disappointing appointments that Kenya has seen in its National Police Service. And I say that honestly and sincerely, Speaker. With this new IG appointment, Speaker, and the vetting that has been done with the Joint Committee, I don't think that 39 years of a career will do it for me. I don't think that a CV really tells what somebody is, his or her morals, and what they intend to do once they get into a position. A CV is just a piece of paper, Mr. Speaker, and an interview process, anyone can speak and have the gift of the gab, as they call it, and woo the entire committee. But frankly, to me, Speaker, the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be in what he does in his first 100 days, in his first year, in his first day in office, Speaker. That will be what will determine the intention of this new IG and where he would like to take the National Police Service. Speaker, 2 months later, we still have conflicting police reports, and I wish that this be his first order of business. Conflicting reports on how many people have died in the anti-government protests the last 2 months. We have heard the president give his number, IPOA give their number, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights give their number, and still, right now in the mortuary, we have over 240 unidentified bodies sitting, lying, and with no clue of where they came from. Some of them have been changed in terms of they've been picked up in one location, and you go to the morgue and you see that they have a tag saying another location for another crime or another accident. Mr. Speaker, it's an absolute mess. And I wish that this become his first order of business and become his priority if and when he gets into office. Mr. Speaker, 2 months later we still have bodies, like I said, unidentified. We have abductions still going on, with the most former that has gone viral on the internet being of a popular blogger named Maverick Auko, just released yesterday. Mr. Speaker, 2 months later, we still have families who are left in the dark. They don't know where their kids are, their family members, their loved ones.
What is your point of order, Senator Mandago?
Honorable Speaker, Standing Order 105 on statement of fact. I've heard Senator Asike say Aogo was abducted. There's a difference between police arrest and being abducted. I think it is time that we also set record straight that the police must be left to do their work. That is the reason why the Honorable Parliament...
Order, Senator Kiyo. Minority Leader. Order, Senator Mazai.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, you must protect me, because I get surprised when senior counsel like Omogen, who was in this house and passed the Cybercrime Act, would want to gag the police from doing their work. Can Senator Asike substantiate the allegation of abduction? Otherwise, she should withdraw the statement and apologize to the police of this country.
Senator Crystal Asige, you have made a very heavy statement that a blogger was abducted. Are you in a position to substantiate that claim? If not, then you may proceed to withdraw.
Mr. Speaker, as I was contributing, perhaps a good senator from Wasingishu didn't hear me correctly. What I said was that on social media there are reports of a blogger who has been abducted. I did not say, Speaker, anything else apart from that. Speaker, I'll continue. What I was trying to continue to say is that there are still families who are also left in the dark.
Senator Crystal Asige, you've said abductions are still going on. I heard you correctly. Right. Abductions don't happen in social media.
Speaker, the reports that are coming from social media, I said, are that there are still abductions ongoing.
But social media may not be the correct source.
Correct, Speaker. And I hope that the new IG that is incoming will unturn every single stone so that we can get down to the bottom of these reports.
Senators, order. Did you verify the information you got from the social media, Senator Crystal Asige?
Speaker, I was continuing to say that I'm hoping that the new IG will take it upon himself to prioritize unturning all of these stones and all of these allegations that are ongoing so that we can find out the truth and he can do his job in informing the country of the true position of what is going on, Speaker.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, families should also be given information about their whereabouts of their loved ones who are still missing, who are still seeking for answers to questions that they've been having over several months now, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that I hope that the new IG will take note of the court ruling that has pronounced itself clearly about using live bullets, about clothing, and masked officers roaming our streets, Speaker. I hope that this will also be rectified through his tenure when he reaches the office that he is going to assume soon, Speaker, because these kinds of things cannot continue in a republic of Kenya. We are not a banana republic, Mr. Speaker, and I hope that this is definitely prioritized by the new IG. Mr. Speaker, I hope that he works to follow the law, not work to follow anyone else's orders or anyone else's opinions or anyone else's way of doing business, Speaker, is what I'm saying. The law is clear and it's very concise, and he needs to, hopefully, I want to believe that he will be following it.
Senator Sik.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much for this opportunity that you've given me also to come to support this motion and take the floor to speak much more about the nominee IG, Douglas Kanja. At this opportunity when the country really want to have the IG at the moment. Honorable Speaker, I happen to be in the Committee of National Security in the Senate Joint Committee with National Assembly, and we had done an interactive session with the nominee, and we realized that the experience the nominee has and has worked in this country is quite enormous, and we were a bit impressed. This is enormous. This is something that we really encourage. We thank God that we can really still have officers who can work through ranks, different ranks, without even going to a different rank. He went through all the ranks, from the first rank of the or corporal to the Director General of Police. Honorable Speaker, this motivates the entire service for them to understand that somebody can rise from the constable position or even from constable to the IG position. So this brought to the experiences of this officer. We really realize that is a very important opportunity for the rest and even for the entire country. Honorable Speaker, the nominee promised the committee and the entire country that because we were live and we broadcasted all this throughout the entire country, he promised to deal with issues of corruption, particularly on the issue of traffic, where we realize that there is a big issue and a big gap in this country. He also promised that he will look at the issues of deployment of staff on areas of that are shortages and try to bring some staffing issues within the force and even discipline within the force. These are the issues that he could really brought to the committee and to the Kenyans when he was being vetted by our Committee of National Security. Honorable Speaker, I want to request that as we continue to approve this nomination of this officer, Douglas Kanja, I request that the nominee would really observe and address a few issues that really were coming very strongly during the interview and to the members of the committees and to also to the public, because we received quite a number of memoranda through public participations and all that. And I really request that the nominee address the issue of vehicles, shortage of police vehicles. We realize that a number of stations, police stations, has no vehicles. If there is no vehicle, then there is no fuel, there is no transport, there is no supervision, there is no security, there's a highly shortage of security. The issue of houses in this country for police is something that really is something that has been a big problem. Most of our police are also staying at this Viosk. Most of them stays at shanty areas, and even it's horrible. It's a horrible situation for the police service. Honorable Speaker, I also want the nominee to address the issue of border points, particularly on areas of these border points where, like in Kajiado, we have a big problem where the Tanzania authorities are really threatening members of this country. They are abducting, they are arresting, they take our...
Senator Richard Onyonka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I take this opportunity to contribute to this very, very important matter. Mr. Speaker, the selection, nomination, maybe appointment of the Inspector General of Police is one of the major positions that in our country is highly regarded and respected. Mr. Speaker, the feeling I have is that in our republic, even when as a country we have done exceptionally well when it came to performing internationally. And Mr. Speaker, because of the institutional memory, many of my friends here may not know that or remember that Kenya is actually the country that provided security teams from the Kenyan Police Service to go to Namibia to set up their police system after their independence. Kenya did the same in Zimbabwe. Kenya did the same in Rwanda. And right now, Kenya is in Haiti. Internationally, we've kept a highly respectful kind of engagement, and people have known us as a country that believes in the rule of law and a country that has performed quite reasonably well when it came to our police service. But then, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I have observed, and I happen to be very lucky because I've been around for quite a while, the police service that we have right now is actually dysfunctional. One of the issues that I would like to raise, and my colleagues and friends here have raised this issue, Mr. Speaker, is that you can't have a police officer who stays in a mud hut with him and his colleagues, even sharing rooms with their wives. We can't have a police service, Mr. Speaker, where a police officer sometimes is transferred unilaterally because he has annoyed some big person somewhere where their rights are violated. We can't have a police service where I keep talking about their salary for obvious reasons, because I would spend most probably a whole day discussing how we have mistreated our police service. And yet indeed, because of this dysfunctionality, Mr. Speaker, the police service, the Kenyan police service, has failed us miserably. The recent events that you saw happen, my colleagues have talked about unilateral arrests. Mr. Speaker, if you look at it right now, a gentleman called Jimmy Wanjigi was arrested, his house was demolished, and these are issues that I would like to seek in this house and to my brothers. I remember when Cherargei was being arrested some 3 years ago, and he was screaming, saying, oh my God, Mr. Speaker, what is going to happen to me? These people came at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Speaker, at that time when Cherargei was speaking, Senator Cherargei was speaking and crying, I thought he had lost his mind. Mr. Speaker, I would like to encourage Mr. Kanja
Mr. Speaker, I stand under Standing Order 101 and 105 on statement of fact. Mr. Speaker, is it in order to go on the answer of this House that I was yelling and crying? Me, I'm a dry Kalenjin man who was circumcised in 3 a.m. in the morning. Is it in order for the senator of Kisii to insinuate I was crying? In fact, I was arrested naked, but I've never cried about it, Mr. Speaker. Can he apologize to me and the great men of Nandi and the people of Nandi, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of Koitalel Samoe and the Talai, Mr. Speaker? He claimed that I was yelling. How can a man yell? How can a man yell? Can he yell? Kicking in the air. Can he? Apologize and say you made it just.
Mr. Speaker, I literally saw Honorable Senator Cherargei wailing, asking for his gods to excuse him. And when I asked him what was the problem, he told me he had seen Mr. Matiang'i the night before. It was scary for him, Mr. Speaker. I'm using this argument, Mr. Speaker, to justify... Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, could you allow me to look for... Yes. I promise to deliver the video, sir, because I wouldn't wish... Mr. Speaker, Honorable Okongo Mogeni would like...
I have not given that permission. So upon our return, because
yes,
we proceed on recess today.
Yes.
At the adjournment of this House, we proceed on recess. Once we come back on the 17th of September,
I'll provide the video and show how he was crying.
Now proceed to conclude.
He was wailing.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say that I plead with the new Inspector General of Police to make sure that he carries himself with the dignity that he has. Mr. Kanja is somebody we all know. I would like him to look at several issues, but I want to plead with this House and the National Assembly for the police service to perform. They have always said, and I believe them, Mr. Speaker, because we went as a committee and met the team from the police service during the Shakahola hearings. And Mr. Speaker, our forensic labs hardly work. The police vehicles don't have fuel. You find that the police officers don't even have insurance for themselves. You find that most of the issues that are involving the police are treated casually. I would like to plead that we provide them with the necessary funding, make sure that this aspect of corruption and aspects of roadblocks being stationed everywhere on our roads, I think it needs to be rationalized. And to finish, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that I hope that Mr. Kanja will do an excellent job, make sure this House interfaces with him, because we are the ones who will be oversighting him. I believe that he is a man who's capable of understanding that he must be seen to offer justice, he must be seen to be fair, and he must be seen to be a person who's willing to make Kenya a better place than he found it. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say that I honestly do feel that Mr. Kanja will be able to manage this office, and I hope that my colleagues in this House will be open enough for us to make sure that we begin to change our systems which are failing. Our children who are killed, we don't have the data. That has already been mentioned, Mr. Speaker. So I would like to say that some things we need closure, some things we need to be honest with ourselves, because if you don't have justice, you cannot have peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, with those very few remarks.
Senator Kenyu. Senator Kenyu.
Asanti sana Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Bwana Spika, kuanzia mwanzo nataka kumpongeza Douglas Kanja kwa kuteuliwa kuwa jenerali mkuu wa polisi. Bwana Spika, ni vizuri julikane wazi na Kanja wakati anapokuja aje akijua ya kwamba kazi kuu ya serikali yoyote ni kulinda mali na maisha ya wananchi. Bwana Spika, Bwana Spika, ukitembelea sehemu nyingi za bonde la ufa hasa Laikipia, Bwana Spika, unapata wakati mwingi watu wanaishi kwa maisha ya kukimbizwa na kuibiwa na hawa wezi wa mifugo. Bwana Spika, kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, ningemuuliza Jenerali wa polisi atakapoingia, Bwana Spika, azingatie na aweze kukubalia tuweze kuongeza hawa askari wetu wa ziada, kwa Kiingereza wanaitwa NPR, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu hawa ndio askari walio na uzoefu na ujuzi katika zile sehemu mahali ambapo wametoka. Bwana Spika, Bwana Spika, na vile vile hawa askari wanapaswa waangaliwe na washughulikiwe, kwa sababu wakati mwingi Bwana Spika, wanapouawa unapata ya kwamba hawana faida yoyote wanayopata. Ningependa kusema Bwana Spika, wapewe NHIF hiyo ikiwashughulikia wakati wanapatikana matatizo hasa ya magonjwa, Bwana Spika, na familia zao. Bwana Spika, Bwana Spika, nimefurahi kuona ya kwamba nikiangalia ripoti iliyoletwa kwetu, Inspector Generali utajiri wake wote ni milioni, Bwana Spika, 46. Na tungependa Bwana Spika, baada ya mwaka mmoja tuweze kuangalia utajiri wake utakuwa umepanda kiasi kipi, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu kila wakati unaona mtu anaingia katika hizi ofisi kuu za serikali utajiri wake unaendelea kuwa mkubwa hata zaidi, Bwana Spika. Na hiyo ni hali moja, Bwana Spika, tutakuwa tukipigana na ufisadi, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, ufisadi ni paka uangaliwe kwa kiasi cha haja, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, sehemu ambazo zingine ambazo tungependa kumwambia Bwana Spika anapoingia, ukiangalia Bwana Spika, bonde la ufa unapata ya kwamba watu wengi hawa wakora wanabunduki kinyume cha sheria, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo anapaswa aungane na maafisa wale wengine, maafisa wa ujasusi, maafisa wa jeshi, ndio waweze kuwanyang'anya wale watu walio na bunduki kinyume cha sheria, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu hizi bunduki ndizo zinahangaisha watu wengi wanaoishi katika sehemu hizo, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, Laikipia ukitembea kama mahali kunaitwa Ormora, uende mahali kunaitwa Angwashe, mahali kunaitwa Miteta, Bwana Spika, tuna shida hii ya usalama hata mahali kunaitwa Yedhi, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo ninafahamu na ninajua kwamba kwa sababu huyu afisa ni mtu aliyebombea katika kazi yake, Bwana Spika, nikiangalia ameanza kufanya hii kazi ya usalama kwa muda mrefu, Bwana Spika, ninajua ataweza kuifanya kwa ujasiri na bila kuogopa chochote. Bwana Spika, jambo lingine ambalo ningependa kusema ni ya kwamba kwa sababu nchi yetu wakati mwingine tunakumbwa na magaidi, Bwana Spika, na kwa sababu yeye mwenyewe anaonekana aliongoza katika ile operationi ya fagia boni, Bwana Spika, ninajua yeye ataweza kusaidia hata zaidi, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, tumekuwa na shida ya pombe katika sehemu nyingi katika nchi ya Kenya, Bwana Spika, na watu wanakisia kwamba unapata maafisa wengine wa polisi, Bwana Spika, wao wenyewe wana mabaa na wanaendeleza ile mambo ya kuuza pombe, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo hiyo mambo ya mgongano wa kirasilimali, Bwana Spika, anapaswa aishughulikie, Bwana Spika. Kwa mambo, Bwana Spika, ya maandamano yaliyokuwa yakifanyika katika nchi ya Kenya, sisi tulitoa mwongozo hapa, Bwana Spika, na tukapitisha vile ambavyo serikali inapaswa kufanya, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo hatuna haja tujisumbue kumuuliza huyu afisa, anapaswa afuate yale mambo ambayo sisi tulielekeza katika jumba hili. Tukasema ya kwamba wale ambao waliuawa, Bwana Spika, wanapaswa kufidiwa na serikali, Bwana Spika. Tukasema wale walioko katika hospitali, Bwana Spika, wanapaswa kufidiwa na serikali. Kwa hivyo mimi ningependa kusema ya kwamba nampongeza huyu afisa, na kwa sababu ni mtu aliye na uzoefu, tukiangalia katika historia yake ni mtu aliye na uzoefu, sina shaka mimi namtakia kila raheli katika jukumu hili mpya alilopewa, Bwana Spika, la kuongoza askari wetu, na tunajua ya kwamba baada ya muda aliyopewa tutaona kazi atakayokuwa ameifanya. Bwana Spika, nashukuru na nasema asante.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. I wish to support the decision of the joint committees on the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja to the position of IG. Mr. Speaker, as we support his appointment, I would want to send a message that when we passed the Constitution of Kenya 2010, we actually intended that we move from the police force to a police service. Mr. Speaker, Article 244 of the Constitution that guides on how the police can be a service has to date not been implemented. The police continues to be a force rather than a service. My plea to the incoming IG is that this is a golden opportunity for you to be the first IG to make a serious attempt to implement the police as a service. And I believe if you implement the police as a service, this will benefit everybody in the country. It will benefit communities, it will benefit families, it will benefit the government, and we will be a better off community. Mr. Speaker, I would want to speak to a few particular issues that I think the IG must pay attention to. Mr. Speaker, we have so many cases of lost children in this country. Every so often you hear this child is being looked for, this child has disappeared, this child has died. I want to ask that the police invest more time in trying to deal with child trafficking in this country so that we deal with that menace. Mr. Speaker, I also want to request that the IG collaborate better with other departments. The information from the Kenya Health Information System indicates that between 2016 and 2023, we had over nearly 200,000 10 to 14-year-olds, girls who were made pregnant. This information was picked from health facilities. Mr. Speaker, all of those are defilements. Do we have a similar number of prosecutions in our courts? No, we don't have it, because these cases are not prosecuted, are not followed, because the provincial administration from sub-chiefs and the others, including the police, actually get into negotiations instead of prosecuting these cases. We are asking that for the protection of girls and boys in this country, because the defilement is also happening to the boys, that the IG will spend a lot more time and put in place mechanisms to ensure that our children, especially the girls, are protected from sexual violence in this country. Mr. Speaker, we have had quite a number of deaths in our universities. We've had brutal deaths that happen where people are murdered, especially girls. We are asking that he also looks at that. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak to the new issue where police are covering their faces, using cars without number plates, hiding their identity. Mr. Speaker, why would police mimic terrorists? How would I know that this is a police officer when the police officer is behaving like a terrorist, like a robber? We need the IG to immediately stop the new practice in the police where they are mimicking terrorists and terrorizing the society in the manner in which they are carrying out, particularly when they want to arrest the persons who have made political speeches. Recently, my former colleague, Khalef Khalifa, former commissioner, was arrested by people who were hooded. And when he tried to get to ask for his rights, they actually then...
Senator Muma, your time is up. Just wind up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Wamatinga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me kick off by thanking the both combined committee of the Senate and the Parliament for the approval of IG nominee Kanja. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have the privilege of knowing Kanja since I was a young boy, and I know his commitment, his dedication, his journey in the police force has been quite long. Indeed, 39 years of experience, Mr. Speaker. Having worked in all lanes in this country, having served in different challenges, indeed, he has what it takes to take the police force to the next level. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know we've come from an age where we've been confronted by a new challenge of the Gen Zs. This is a tribalist approach to doing things. This is a generation that is leveraging the technology to have their things done. Mr. Speaker, sir, my prayer to the nominee is that he equally leverages technology, he uses IT to advance, to promote, and most importantly, to ensure that the safety and the security of Kenyans is guaranteed. Mr. Speaker, sir, we came some times back with the initiative of the Nyumba Kumi. This was a noble concept that has not taken deep root because it has lacked support from the structural and the structured forces. Mr. Speaker, sir, my request to the new IG is to leverage the Nyumba Kumi initiative, ensure that they are given adequate technology in line with the community frontiers so that we can be able not only to capture data, but also to timely, effectively report occurrences in any part of this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, being a people-centric approach in offering police services would require that we Kenyan citizens also change our approach in the way we do things. It is a high time, Mr. Speaker, sir, we stop looking at police forces as our adversaries, but look at them as our partners so that we can be able to promote the well-being of each one of us. Mr. Speaker, sir, most of the activities, if not all the activities, criminal or otherwise, are conducted among the citizens. It is our sons, it is our daughters, it is our fathers and our mothers who commit these crimes. Mr. Speaker, sir, having lived for over 20 years in a country, in a European country, I saw that people do take a very active role in reporting incidences to the police. Indeed, if we were to do this, Mr. Speaker, then we would also promote the welfare of not only the police, but the welfare and the security of every Kenyan. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also important we recall the slogan of the police, utumishi kwa wote. However, Mr. Speaker, we as the registratures, we must also enhance the budget that is allocated to the police services, as has been mentioned by my colleagues, so that we ensure they have decent houses, they have adequate equipment, but most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that the excuse they always get of not having fuel, not being well motorized, not being well equipped, comes to an end. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, can only be done if we are very deliberate in ensuring that the budgetary allocation to the police forces and to all the discipline forces matches the demand and the technology that is required in the present age. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Kenyan police performance in Haiti, as much as it was talked ill about, we are very, very proud because they've been able to bring some sanity. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is this dedication, the utumishi kwa wote dedication, that makes Kenyan police, that makes Kenyan people shine. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I wind up, I would want to say Mr. Kanja has what it takes to take this country to the next level, but most importantly, I urge my colleagues to be very supportive in terms of
being deliberate in the county level and in the national level by allocating adequate resources so that the police can be able to deliver, and most importantly, get adequate resources in terms of their facilities, housing, and otherwise, that they can also work in human condition. Mr. Speaker, sir, in a generation that is getting ever younger, it is the high time that we look at leveraging the technology. Thank you.
Senator Mogeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to congratulate the IG nominee, Douglas Kanja, for having gotten a chance to serve, I believe, as the 4th Inspector General of Police. But, Mr. Speaker, Kanja takes office, will be taking office during very, very challenging times, Mr. Speaker. I want to state here that his first responsibility, Mr. Speaker, should be to ensure that the police respect the provisions of Article 244 of the Constitution. We need to restore public confidence on our police being a police service and not a terrorist unit. Mr. Speaker, I've just been wondering, those out there who are looking at us as a country, when they see police officers arresting Honorable Keter the way they did, coming from church with his wife and child, and he's picked like terrorists are arresting somebody, Mr. Speaker. How does the international community look at us, Mr. Speaker, when we raid the house of a former presidential candidate, Maina Wanjigi? You maliciously damage his property. No, it's not right, Mr. Speaker. We must say these things because it's affecting our image out there, Mr. Speaker. Why should the police arrest people with hooded, hiding their faces? Are they thugs? Mr. Speaker, anybody arresting me, I should be able to know who that person is. I should have a right to inform my lawyer, Mr. Speaker. I want Kenyans to be arrested the way Senator Mandago was arrested. The police approached him and said, "Sir, could we kindly arrest you?" Mr. Speaker, that's how I want it to be done. Not the way they picked Senator Cherage on a Friday, booked him in Muthaiga police. I went there to see him at Gigiri. He was put in a corridor. He was put in a corridor with grills, Mr. Speaker, the whole weekend. That's not right. This lady you call Scoffy Naoko, Mr. Speaker, arrested and she made a false publication of information contrary to Section 23 of the Computer and the Cyber Crimes Act. A very small offense. Arrested on the 16th, locked up in a police station, denied access to a lawyer, only to be presented to court yesterday and given a cash bail of 20,000. Are we serious as a country? The police have better things to do, Mr. Speaker. When they gave summons to Maina Wanjigi to appear before DIC, he walked there yesterday.